Well, a warm welcome to you all. I'm JJ. I'm a life coach. I eat mostly meat.
I'm Eric. I'm a novelist. I eat mostly meat too.
And if you are joining us either here live or in the replay, we'd love you to say hello. Say hello to us. So we've been doing carnivore for
2 years.
A little more than 2 years. That's correct. And we've been doing this YouTube channel for
A year.
Our anniversary, YouTube anniversary,
Yeah.
was on December 19th, I believe, just before Christmas. We got you had the harebrained idea, I think.
Yeah, it was a harebrained idea for sure. And but I think it was a good one.
No, it was a good one. I think so. We had no idea that we would be meeting such amazing people through this channel. So thank you so much for watching, for being a member of our community. And today we're talking about thriving in 2025.
Well, it actually rhymes if you just say thrive in 2025.
Sorry.
That's all right. But because we are on today's December the 27th,
Mm-hmm.
and the new year is right around the corner.
It is.
And it's a good time to reflect, assess, make some plans, make some changes,
Mm-hmm.
and then hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to thrive in 2025, we just got to keep doing what we're doing.
For the most part, that's really it. Yeah.
It's not so much huge changes that need to be made.
No.
But I did want to talk a little bit about just because this stream will hit some people who maybe don't know us and haven't seen us before.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just cover a little bit about what's happened for us on Carnivore. And we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Here you are.
Here I am. And that is my external transformation right there. I have lost 30 pounds on Carnivore and managed to keep it off really easily without counting, without macros, without anything like that. And the internal transformation is actually what is more significant to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I came to Carnivore to lose weight. I mean, that was part of the goals with me and my doctor. And what I didn't realize was that it was going to transform my being so much and transform my mood and my energy and really make such a huge difference in my day-to-day life.
And those differences have manifested in energy and mood and all those good things.
Yeah, exactly. And, as an aside, I've also had my skin is clearer. I had an ankle injury from when I was in my early 20s that has really improved. I don't have daily pain with it. My thyroid medication, I'm hypothyroid. We've been able to lower that, half it actually. So there have been a lot of changes that cannot be seen. Again, sort of those internal changes.
Okay. So that was, we cover this very frequently,
yeah.
So we're not going to belabor it. And then I found my before and after, although this one's not up to date. Let me click. There we go.
Yeah.
So
that's not up to date. Is
it?
My
current weight is now 173. So I've lost 7 more pounds from this picture. But yeah, I was at a height of 205 pounds. I'm 6 foot even. And I was pretty doughy. It's a little hard to see from this picture. I didn't have a lot of pictures of me. I just don't get many pictures of me because my family doesn't take pictures of me. And so I don't ever find them. But I did find this one. I had to cut some people out who were next to me in this picture. But my transformation kind of aligns with JJ's. It was started, I knew I was carrying extra weight, and my blood panels weren't looking that great. I was on a few medicines. I was on a statin. I was on an SSRI, and just not much vim, vigor, energy. Hard to even manifest a whole lot of optimism. And I had many successes with keto in the past to lose weight, But when I contemplated doing that again, the problem was I knew that my pattern would repeat, because keto with allowing me to have 20 grams of carbs would just eventually I would slip,
Mhm.
and then I would be right back where I was always. And so carnivore was a little more extreme, but it also had this great benefit of I don't have to decide which carbs will fill out my allotment of 20 grams. There are no carbs. And that way, I don't ever have to have that temptation or that being on the edge, trying to tiptoe my way through all kinds of catastrophes with choosing the wrong one, which would then suddenly become 20 carbs, becomes 40 carbs a day, becomes 100 carbs a day, becomes 200 carbs, becomes I'm right back here at 205 pounds with metabolic syndrome.
From the outside, carnivore does seem extreme. And one of the things I explain is exactly what you just did right there. When you are focusing your diet on meat, it actually makes things really simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of decisions to be made.
No.
And so I would say that we thrived. And I this year improved my carnivore adherence.
Yes.
And that's what took me from 180 pounds down to 173, which is probably about the lowest weight I want to achieve. I frequently mention that I think that there's some body recomposition that is still possible, but it's not really my aim to do really much of any of that. I just want to continue eating this way and let the diet and the way of life do what it does.
Yes, I would agree. I don't have any huge goals for 2025. I feel like I've reached my health goals. And for the most part, my blood work can improve.
Yeah.
Yet it's just it's adherence and just letting the body continue to heal and optimize.
Let's talk about blood work changing.
Okay.
Because many people, if they start keto or carnivore, they'll see certain blood markers change very quickly. And one of those is they'll see their triglycerides come down. That's triglycerides are always on your cholesterol panel if you have that done maybe once a year from your doctor. And your doc may not actually even look or talk to you about the triglycerides. He'll look at your LDL, or she'll look at your LDL and say, if it's above 100, you need a statin. And that's kind of the depth that they'll go into it. But you want the triglycerides below 100, and you want the HDL to be, I don't know, what, above 60 or something like that. And that happens when you go carnivore for most people. For me, it did not happen very quickly. Now, your triglycerides and HDL are pretty decent. Your HDL is not sensational.
My HDL is the same as it was pre-carnivore. It's 54.
Yeah.
I remember
so
that.
Not as good as you'd like it.
No, and my trigs are a little high still, but
so for me, I'm going to show you this diagram. Longtime viewers will have seen this, but I want to share it again because it's very illustrative of what happens when you go carnivore. So here is a July of 2023, and you can see the blue is my triglycerides, 291. By no standard would anybody say that's positive.
No standard.
That's a disaster. Now, I had been doing carnivore for months by this point. 7 plus 2 is 9 months, with a little bit of a break in the holidays. But that's not good. And my HDL is in green, 35. By no standard is that positive. But because I work with an integrative doctor, I get my blood panels done pretty frequently throughout the year. And so you can see here at September, the trigs had come down to 243. HDL had eked up a little bit. We go out to January.
Wait, were you satisfied with that?
I was dissatisfied with that. We go out to January of 2024. My trigs have come down to 200 and my HDL has gotten to 40. And, I'm thinking each time this is going to be the one where everything's perfect. And it just isn't. We go out to March of 2024. Trigs are 203. So they're flat. I mean, it's been 2 months and it's kind of stayed the same. HDL's eked up a little bit. But then something happens between March and May of 2024. And what I did was I had been keeping a food diary and realizing that I was eating a lot of dairy, and I took it out. And all of a sudden, bam, trigs drop precipitously to 115. Now, this isn't as low as maybe we would like to see it, but it is an enormous improvement.
Mhm.
And we can see that HDL goes up to 50. Now we zoom way out to September of 2024 and trigs are the same and HDL's dropped, but this is noise. This probably is with margin of error stuff. We can also see the red is the HDL to trig ratio. And this is an important ratio. We'd probably like to see that below 2, probably like to see it at 1. But the point of this is that the blood labs can take time. So even while I'm at 180 after coming down from 206 pounds through a lot of this, and then in May of 2024 is when I start dropping that remaining 7 pounds. The healing is continuing to take place. It took decades and decades for me to damage my metabolism with the way I was eating, including long stretches of keto. Did not do the healing that was needed. And it was carnivore that was really the medicine that I needed. And that's the proper human diet. And so, from my point of view, what I would like to see when I'll do a blood draw here sometime in January. Hopefully, I see my trigs improving and I see my HDL improving. And we'll see. But I can't imagine that they're going to go back to the 200s. I don't see what would trigger that, knowing what I do about how the liver produces these things. So anyway, it's just a point. Now, I could create a goal, JJ.
Yes.
I could create a goal to say I want my trigs or my HDL to be a certain level, but that's a bad goal. Because I can't control that.
You have no control over that.
That's a bank shot on a pool table of probably like 3 or 4 different banks that have to hit before you hit the ball that then goes in the pocket. And really the only thing I can do is focus on the process and try to be consistent with my diet and my exercise and allow the body to do the healing that needs to do.
Well, I maintain that weight can't be looked at like that goal either.
Body weight?
Body weight, correct. Because we don't, when we've been set up all our lives learning about calories in, calories out, it's just this math equation you have to do, and you just have to exercise more and eat less. It feels like then you can have this mathematical goal of a goal weight. But when you enter the carnivore world, the keto world, you learn that it isn't calories in, calories out. And the body does have healing to do. And so you can't just pull these levers like that, even for weight loss. And for me, I know it took me 7 months before I started to lose weight. 7 months.
And you were intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I was fasting at the time too. Now, I think we can pull levers to optimize things to a certain extent. Like I can change my fasting, my IF eating window. I can, you dropped dairy. I mean, there are some levers that you can pull for optimization, but we ultimately do not have control over the order in which our body heals or the speed at which it heals.
No, but I would say that the more dysregulated you are and the more weight you have to lose, it's more likely to see results rather quick as the body begins to normalize. But there are certain things that just take a long time for certain people. And I reflect on how damaged my metabolism was. And I say damage, I don't really know what it just feels like that the right word to use. As someone who basically ate sugar from the time I was about 3 as my preferred source of energy. And when I say sugar, I mean, there were long stretches where my dinner was what many people would consider a dessert. I would come home from school and I would eat a box of Hostess cupcakes for my dinner. And that's how I subsisted. That is terrible for you, for your metabolism. It's terrible for pretty much every system in your body. And I did that. And, I can't go back in time and undo it. But what I can do now is keep the carbs to a minimum and try to allow my insulin to come down. My blood sugar obviously is normalized a long time ago. And my weight, my body recomps, and visceral fat eventually leaves. And I start to see it reflected in the blood labs. And hopefully that means that going forward, I'm not doing the damage to my body that I was doing for all those decades. I'm actually healing it, which then will result in more energy and hopefully a longer health span where I can be a productive and happy person for the next 50 years of my life.
Mm-hmm. So I think thriving in 2025, part of that is keeping track of those non-scale victories. Or if your goal is to lower your triglycerides, what are the other benefits you're seeing? Like, I don't think you can hang your hat on one.
No, you can't.
One thing.
Well, if you can't make your body produce certain levels of triglycerides.
Right.
Exactly. You can only kind of guide it to the conditions in which it will do that. Mm-hmm. But what difference do triglycerides make? I'm stumbling over my own tongue. It really is psychological at some point. We know that elevated triglycerides are a higher risk factor for heart disease than, say, elevated LDL. But you're probably not going to feel different with different levels of triglycerides in your system. It's not really anything other than having a sense of security that they're in a place that's not doing damage, presumably. So it really doesn't make a good goal. But I'm not that interested in goals, generally speaking, anyway. Mm-hmm. I have set big goals in my life, and yes. I have achieved some of them. I've written 15 novels or something like that. I always lose track. I don't remember how many. But I'll be honest. I didn't ever finish reading. I never finished reading a novel. You'd think I would have finished reading my own, having written it.
At least, minimally.
No. I never finished writing a novel because it was a goal. That's not how my brain works. The only way that I finished writing a novel was because I instituted a process that I followed every day. And the side effect was a novel got done. And that's kind of how I've been treating Carnivore, is that it's an everyday process and all of the benefits will be side effects.
I have nothing to say to that.
Well, this has been great. We were hoping to do an hour, but I guess that's the end of what we have to say. But if you resonate with that, are you extremely goal oriented, mm-hmm. where you set a goal and you achieve it, or are you more of you like to set a direction and then you head in that direction? Now, there is some benefit to having an objective you want to achieve because it can provide clarity and help make decisions about what kind of process you need to institute. I think they're in balance. I wouldn't say never have a goal. I would just say that set the objective and then focus more on process. Process is way more important because a goal without a process, I think, is really hard to hit.
Well, and in my world, that process for me needs to be pretty doable and simple. So I am a life coach, as I mentioned, and we talk about stretches, risks, and dies. So a stretch is something that you can do. You just haven't done it, perhaps. A risk is something where you actually risk failure, you risk rejection, you risk humiliation. It brings up emotion and fear responses in your body. And a die is something that is so scary, you would almost rather die than do that thing. So, like for me, a marathon would absolutely be a die. But I don't even have any desire to do it, but it would be a die anyway. So for me, my process has to be in that stretch zone of things that I know I can do. So when I do exercise, as you know, I will do things like I'm going to do 2 exercises today. And I'm just going to do 2. That is it. period. And it builds on itself, like you said. It does definitely build on itself. But for me, it's got to be, for the most part, in that stretch zone. Sometimes I understand that risks do happen either on their own, where you're kind of thrust into a situation that you weren't anticipating and it's more scary. But for me to shoot for a risk, it doesn't work well.
No?
No, as a goal, a risk,
Hmm.
I mean, it can be, I like how you put it. It's the direction can be a risk, I think, but I really need those stretches to get there. The
risk is too much.
The risk is too much. It doesn't feel sustainable. It doesn't feel sustainable, basically. And I've mentioned that I've even come to carnivore. I didn't do a lot of dieting in my past. I did Weight Watchers once officially, and then I did some eating things with you, but it was never with any real goal. Like I did some added smoothies to my diet and juicing, and I tried keto a little bit. But I knew even then I needed, if I was going to change the way I ate, it needed to be sustainable and easy and more of a stretch, which again sounds a little crazy when it's carnivore and it feels like restrictive to some people. But yeah, so yeah, I like the idea, the direction, the objective, I think for me can be in that risk zone, but I really need, when I'm setting up my processes, they need to be stretches.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
For the most part.
I think that's right. It depends on I think it depends on the people that you socialize with and what their level of average risk or goal setting is. If you're around people who have no goals,
that's true.
You probably won't feel much incentive to have them. But if you're around people who have extraordinarily high goals and they're just running marathons and doing Spartan races, and that can also be its own source of kind of a source of disaster, because then it can be either too competitive or you can end up just setting too high of a goal and doing a face plan and being discouraged by that.
Well, yeah. And actually we can bring that up a little later, that chart that sort of illustrates that. Yeah.
But I mean, when I look at this before and after, I don't have any sense of satisfaction or pride in this. I have more relief. I'm relieved that I don't have the whole set. I'm circling. I don't know if you can see what my cursor is doing. I don't think you can. I'm circling my head with the cursor as I look at this, going, the problems were inside that skull. The body was just that was a side effect of what was happening in the skull, the mindset. And I just was not in a good place.
No.
And, looking at the after, I'm obviously smiling in both, but there's just a total difference in energy and confidence in my ability to take on what's happening in life between those two. And I feel relieved that I have got that behind me so I can actually continue to live.
Yeah, we've got big plans for the next 25, 30 years.
We do? Yeah. What are they?
Well, just taking care of this place.
Oh, that's right.
We upsized in our 50s rather than downsized.
As empty nesters, we upsized our house.
Our property.
It was very strange. Very strange pattern. So let's check in with the chat. Marla says, good afternoon. Hi, Marla.
Hello, Marla.
Good to see you. Carnivore Chan says, let's go. Pam says, hi.
Hey, Pam.
Hi, Pam. And Carnivore Chan says, I just want to reach as many stroke survivors as I can and bring them to this community. Well.
Now I want to know more of the story.
I can only imagine that carnivore being such an anti-inflammatory diet it could only be beneficial to stroke victims. I want to prevent a stroke, so that's also why I would eat carnivore. But for a lot of people, if you told them that, they would be like, I don't understand the connection. I don't see how carnivore does that.
My grandmother had a lot of cardiovascular issues at a young age, I guess. I didn't know her very well because she was always sickly. But I do remember this because I'd go to her apartment and she lived on Life cereal, bananas, chicken lunch meat, Jello, and I feel like there might be one other thing. So it was a very austere, low fat diet, and yeah, I bring it up because she ended up in a nursing home with a stroke for her final years, and after having several heart attacks. So it just and she was very thin.
Oh.
She was very thin. But yeah, she was not nourishing her body and smoked. Let me add the smoking like a chimney.
Yeah, that probably wasn't helping a whole lot.
That does not help either. But yeah, she was definitely not giving her body what she needed.
So Annette says, no one does resolutions anymore, do they? I think many people still do. I don't think in terms of resolving to do things. I do like to take the end of the year to reflect on the past year and to think about what I want to do or change in my processes for the coming year. But I wouldn't think in terms of resolutions.
I want to bring back something you brought up a few videos ago, the stop, start, continue. I really like that method. I've used it with clients too, of evaluating what you want to stop in the upcoming year, what you want to start, and what you want to continue. So I'm going to throw that your way in a moment. He's typing right now. Stop, start, continue. And you got this from a coach or consultant?
No, I made this up, and
Really?
the coach stole it and used it.
Oh,
with his
you're
clients.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually became a process we did every year in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so obvious that it almost needs no explanation. But the insight was that for business planning at the end of the year, as we considered the coming year, it's very enticing to come up and exciting to come up with a bunch of new projects that we want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem was I had a history of watching this happen, watch all the projects go up on the whiteboard, be converted into plans across different divisions or departments. And then within a couple of months, everything fell apart from those plans because the day-to-day work had to happen.
Right.
And the plans were created without any regard to whether anybody had any capacity to add this work to their schedule. And inevitably, the customer was the most important thing. And if the customer needed stuff, that would get done. And then those plans would fall by the wayside. And pretty soon it would be November and we'd be looking back at how did we do? And some of the things had gotten done, but a lot had fallen by the wayside and then went on the new plan for the new year. And everybody kind of knew it's like, well, that's never going to happen. And that's because we never did the first step, which is you have to stop doing certain things to make room in the schedule to do the new things. Mm-hmm. And that's actually true. That's what carnivore is. Carnivore is stopping. First and foremost, eating carbs of any kind. That's the step one. And it's very hard to think of if your mind is in your old way of eating because you're thinking, well, I need meat with a potato and maybe a veg and then a dessert. And it's like, if I just stopped, well, then I just have 8 ounces of steak. And it's like, no, because after you stop that, you're going to start doubling how much steak you eat. And then you're probably going to get some fat from the butcher. You're going to fry up some fat blobs, or you're going to make some butter bites. And then you're going to start eating a whole lot more fat than you ever thought you could possibly get down.
Yeah.
But but it is good to acknowledge the things that you're going to stop and start and the things that are working that you're going to continue. And that's what that's all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm on mostly a continue.
Yeah.
If I look at my eating, specifically my nutrition, my eating, I think I'm mostly a continue. I don't know that I'm going to. So I am not committing to stopping this, but I have been having a lot less. I have cold brew in the morning, having a lot less of it because I just haven't had the taste for coffee lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So again, not committing to that, but who knows? Maybe it'll stop.
I am going to continue my coffee, and I don't care what anybody says about it. Let's see. Carnivore Chan says, my neurologist always told me to cut carbs to 0, but won't just say go carnivore. That's fascinating. I just changed doctors. It clears out chronic inflammation in the brain. Yeah, I can imagine. I can only imagine. Well, we wish you the best.
Yes.
And it sounds like you've got a bit of a mission that you want to share this with everybody, and that's great.
Yes.
The ripple effect that we'll have on other people will be incredible.
Holy cow.
You had this chart you wanted to bring up. Should we bring it up and talk about it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring it up because you just talked about how in the business world things would collapse.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it, a lot of it came from the urgency of the day, right? And we hear about that a lot with, every time our phone pings, is it, we treat it as urgent. But this cycle was in the 12-week year. It's a book I'm about halfway through. Just looking at one thing I want to start doing a little bit more of, at least at the beginning of this year, is to focus some of my energy. I have so much energy and I would like to focus it so that I can clear out some of these projects that I have and have space come the warm weather for more work here on the property. So I'm reading this 12-week year by Moran and Lennington, and this chart is in it. It's adapted by the psychologists Don Kelly and Daryl Connor originally came up with this concept, and then the authors of this book adapted it. But it talks about phase 1 of any type of change, especially a big one, being uninformed optimism. So you go into something really excited about the new project or the new diet or the new exercise plan or whatever it may be. And your emotional state is high. And I've seen this with clients too. Holy cow. And then as they move along, their emotional state goes lower into informed pessimism. They start to see the downsides, how much work it is, how many other things get in the way, whatever it might be. They start having more information, more experience with this process, and they're not sure that they can do it and continue anymore. And it's no longer exciting and motivating and inspiring. And then they keep going and they hit the valley of despair. Now, I train life coaches, and this hits around month 5 of our 10-month program. So it literally is about halfway through the program, and the novelty is gone, and it still seems like there's so much more that they have to do. So I think the same thing happens with diet. The novelty's gone. You've had a lot of steak. Your birthday rolls around, and you still have, you're looking at doing this forever. And what does that look like, really? And you're not getting your triglycerides down or your weight. There are things that everything's not going 100% the way you want it to. So the valley of despair. And that's when a lot of people back out of their goal. Or it says here at the bottom, they quit and sort of reinstitute a new goal and just keep in that first part of the cycle where they're optimistic, then they get more pessimistic, and then despair, repeat. So it's really about pushing through that despair, about getting through the despair, that valley of despair, which is one place where community is really important. Whether it's a community of people who have experience in this arena, or doctors, wise counsel like Dr. Barry, Dr. Chafee, Dr. Baker, who can keep you motivated, or even hiring a coach of some sort can really help you through this time that's considered the valley of despair. Because if you push through, that's when you start to have that emotional state move up, and you have informed optimism. And really what I think informed optimism is that you start to see some of your goals. You start to see that, I want to say result, but we've been talking about not necessarily having results, but you start to see that success. You start to see more positives than negatives. And that sort of helps motivate you and keep you going to success and fulfillment. So I just thought this was an excellent look at this emotional cycle. And I think we go through this. I think if you look at the carnivore diet, and I'm going to stay on this because it's self-correcting the rest of my life, I expect that there might be this cycle, maybe not as large of a dip into the valley of despair, but I'm guessing this is a cycle that we may see over and over again, even in this journey of a lifetime.
Yeah, I guess it probably doesn't dip to despair.
No, I don't think it would go that far.
But, around the holidays, it gets a little bit harder. But I would think that your point about seeking out community to get through that low or those struggles is really valuable. And I wish that I could do that better than I do.
Yeah.
But I think like Bella's community, the Steak and Butter Gang, would be a great example of that. And I know that Barry's got one, and Carrie's got his on Homestead House, or Healing Humanity. And all of those are great because, you talk to other people. And I think for me, what's the best is seeing other people talk about how their health is turned around.
Yeah.
Just seeing that over and over and over again, those testimonials, they never really get old.
No. And even today, hearing Carnivore Chans, that is an amazing, I'm so happy that you found Carnivore, even though your doctor won't say it. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So I wanted to bring this up, and I kind of wanted to ask you too, because like I said, I am a life coach, and one of the things I work on with my clients when they have some sort of objective they're moving toward or goal is, when does an explanation or a reason become an excuse? So as we look ahead toward 2025, something is going to come up that might derail you from either your health goals or whatever you're aiming at. Something's going to come up. You're going to injure yourself. You're going to get sick. You're going to have a spouse get sick. You're going to have a kid who comes home from college. There's going to be something that can disrail your process. And it's absolutely valid. Like, it is absolutely real and valid, and it disrupts things for you. And it is so easy, because it is valid, to hang on to that as an excuse. It goes from being an explanation of, I couldn't do this thing. My process is broken because of this real world situation. When does it become something that you're using as a crutch and using it as an excuse? Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Because it can be insidious, especially with food.
Yeah.
Where, you get a disruption and suddenly you're eating off plan, and some of the old health problems are starting to come back. And you have this double thing of, now you're feeling lousy and you lost progress.
Yeah.
And it just makes it really difficult to summon that psychic energy that's needed to reinstitute the plan.
And it can snowball. It can be like,
easily.
Oh, I got a cold, and I got the flu, and all I could think of, all I could eat is toast. I think back when I used to eat toast was the thing to eat when I was sick. So all I could eat was toast. All right. So I've fallen off the carnivore wagon. Not a big deal. Just get back on. But then I'm not sleeping well. I'm recovering, but I'm not sleeping well. So I still feel like garbage. And it seems like such a big effort to move back into carnivore.
Yeah.
But I don't feel good. I really don't. like I really don't feel good and I was sick and I'm not sleeping well and I can't muster the willpower to do this thing. And again, it all started with something that happened with getting sick that was true. But
so what's the answer to that?
It's individual to everyone. When does it become an excuse for you? You need to figure that out. When does an explanation of, oh, I was on vacation or whatever it might be, I had that drink that night with friends, I'm okay with doing it in a social situation, but when does it lapse into excuse? And I wish I could give you an easy answer, but this is what I work with clients is, okay, when does it cross over for you? So I'm interested if there are any suggestions like for you in the comments. When do you know you're using something as an excuse? And again, it doesn't have to even be carnivore related, but when do you know that it is no longer a reason or an explanation? It is an excuse that is keeping you from moving toward your objective. Do you know?
No.
No.
It probably has something to do with me getting irritable.
Well, and honestly, I have an accountability partner that I meet with about every other week, most of the time. And we have been meeting since 2013, I think it was. And if something falls on my list too much with her, like I'm going to do yoga when I get up. If I keep telling her I'm going to, oh, no, I got sick, it fell off. I'm going to start back up again. And if it keeps showing up on my list to her, then I really know it's an excuse. Like that's a big clue for me. So having the
that makes sense.
Having the accountability partner really helps me with that. Yeah.
The main thing is setting up the process such that it can withstand some disruption. And that's a skill.
Well, and I work with clients on that as well. What is your strategy for getting back on the horse? What are you going to do when you get sick and you bought the toast, you're eating the toast? Do you throw the bread in the garbage? Like what do you do? On day 5, does it just go in the garbage? I don't know.
Day 5, you finish it. And then you put yourself in the garbage because you feel so lousy. But we're talking about thriving in 2025.
Yes.
And the reason we're bringing this up is because there will be obstacles.
Yes.
And if you want to thrive, you want to be able to have some plan in mind of how you're going to address that.
Well, and it's about resilience.
And I think rules are helpful.
Yeah. Do tell.
A rule is it's kind of like a process, but it's you come down with the flu and the only thing you can eat is toast, which maybe isn't true. Maybe you shouldn't eat anything.
Well, yes, we would examine that.
We would examine that, but you would say, I can eat toast until this day or this time, after which I'm not. And then that becomes a rule, and then you just follow the rule.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done. Annette says, I'm going to restart my health coaching certification and stop being dogmatic about certain aspects. The spectrum of proper human diet is correct. I'd like to help people find their proper human diet. Well, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's doing a restart and the stop.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Because that's true. I think that I would not be prescriptive about the diet. I think it totally depends on the health challenges someone's facing. And that's why you can eat dairy without any issue and you've hit your goals. And I have to be much more cautious with it.
Yeah.
Carnivore Chan says, that was an amazing breakdown, JJ.
Thank you.
It was. Let's see here. I had a question that occurred to me as we were preparing for this live today.
Oh, and I'd love to hear from everyone.
And this is the question is eating fewer than 5 grams of carbs per day really that different than eating fewer than 50? And the answer is yes, it is way different. But I think from someone who's approaching carnivore from a keto or sort of a paleo perspective, they're probably just having a really hard time understanding why making that cut would be that different. And this relates directly to Annette's point, is that I think there are some people where 50 grams per day, no problem. Probably there's people there's 150 grams per day, no problem, because if they've been eating a animal-based whole food sort of ancestrally appropriate diet from when they were young and they didn't damage their body and their health
Those rare unicorns
over decades, then they can probably continue to eat some salad and potato alongside with their steak if they're not eating all of the sad ultra processed crap that's causing all the inflammation. But I think most people would not fall into that category. And if there's any metabolic syndrome, my instinct would be carnivore until fasting insulin is completely resolved. And the other markers of inflammation are way, way down.
And for me, I've mentioned I'm primarily doing carnivore at this point in my life for mood and energy. Like those are my big goals, or not goals, my big outcomes. It's why I do what I do. And it's my biggest results that I've seen. And 50 grams a day of carbs would not get me here. It just wouldn't, because I know that I need to be in a deeper level of ketosis. And I've just learned that in this last year, 2024, that if I'm in a deeper level of ketosis, things are like, I'm like in a musical. I'm like, it's a happy day.
You're in the happy part of the musical.
Happy part of the musical before the reversal. And at the end, no, it's like night day for me. And again, that might not be the same for everyone. But for me, it's really vitally important to stay in a deeper level of ketosis. As a matter of fact, I am not right now with Christmas. And you certainly have noticed. I certainly have noticed. He can't respond to that. He's like,
You didn't go off the rails on Christmas, but you did have a lot of carbs.
Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't off the rails. It's done. It's all good. It was planned, all strategies in place. But yesterday and today I've hit a wall, and that's not my normal state of being.
Yeah, today was a really weird day. I didn't sleep well last night, and I was very tired all day. I continued to do my planned day as much as I could, including this. But yeah, it was just, I don't know. There's something, I don't know. I'm always a little slightly depressed after Christmas is over anyway.
Well, there is a letdown too. Yeah. And we're going to be taking our daughter back to school pretty soon.
Yeah. Primal Carnivore Fallon says, I feel better than I ever have, never going back. And I made it through the holidays with no problem.
Congratulations.
Wonderful.
Holy cow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And now you should feel very proud of yourself and superior to everybody else. And I kind of mean that, because if I had made it through unscathed, I would definitely be sitting here with my nose up going, I'm superior to everybody because I didn't cheat. But I had some chocolate covered pretzels on Christmas Day. And I actually was able to digest them.
Yes.
That was new.
That was new.
But
well, and that's the question too, I think, with finding your version of the proper human diet. It may change. Maybe, I mean, we're at very, close to zero carbs right now, but maybe after doing this for 10 years, we can eke it up a little bit and still feel amazing. I don't know.
Yeah. So what I ate today.
Yeah.
I had eggs and bacon for a breakfast, which I wasn't sure I was going to eat, but I was hungry enough. And I'm like, yeah, better. And then I got I did a leg workout yesterday, and I was kind of getting back into my resistance training program. And I thought I was doing a hard workout, but not a crazy workout. By no measure would anybody have watched me do that going, oh, he's going to regret that. But wow, am I sore today. And I feel like my whole central nervous system was like, why? Why did you do that? What's wrong with you? And I said to my central nervous system, well, you need training too, because if you can't handle that, you're not going to be able to handle it in 20 years. So get with it. And my central nervous system, I don't even know if I want to be around in 20 years. And I said, well, I do. I don't know. It's a weird conversation to talk to your CNS. But anyway, I was starving. And I typically eat twice. I have a breakfast, then we have an early dinner, late lunch. And I had to eat some killers and killers on this channel means kippers. I ate some kippers and I finished it and they were so good. And then I'm like, that can't be it. And so I had some sardines, which weren't as good.
You had sardines.
I did. Yeah. I was right in front of you when I did all of this.
Yeah, but I was in my own little fog. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And
I'd hit the wall by this point.
I needed that and I felt somewhat better. And then I went for a long walk with the dog and I came back and I needed to do some prep for this stream and I sat down on the sofa and I might have done a little sleeping, but yeah, just getting back into it. But the point is, yeah, Christmas Day, there was some off-plan eating, but then yesterday and today, absolutely 100% on perfect.
And I thought I might fast yesterday because I've been fasting Thursdays and Sundays if my body's up for 2 fasts in a week. It's not always twice a week, but so I thought, oh boy, I'm going to fast on Thursday. It's my normal day, so I'm just going to do it. And I ended up eating dinner. I was not feeling like it was a nourished fast by any stretch. So yeah, we had some rib roast last night. I had that for dinner. I really focused on the fat, and today I have been really focusing on the fat to just get my healing going.
In the past, this holiday season would have begun an endless weeks and months of off-plan eating. Whatever the plan had been before that, it would never have ended. The difference with carnivore for me is it is such night and day in quality of life that it is not hard for me, even though I may have lower energy like today, it's not hard for me to get back on the plan. I'm like,
you're ready.
I'm like the police policing myself. And actually today I was you had that, there was a couple of those almond flour scone things that had not been eaten. And I was like, well, I'm not eating them. But I saw them and my central nervous system wanted them.
What did it say to you?
It said, eat those. And I said, well, I'm in control of me and I'm not doing that. And it said, aw. JH says, went to New York City to visit family about 7 days ago, and I had to have a New York pizza and a New York bagel and New York Spanish food and Italian food, and it was a diet catastrophe trying to get back on the bike. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
You had to have those things. You did it, and now you're ready. You ready and able to make the decision to get back on the bike. And you know that if you just put in enough reps, and with reps being days of compliance, it slowly improves. The cravings reduce. Maybe they don't go entirely away, but they'll reduce. And you'll begin to see the progress. Like I know for me, I had the carby things on Christmas, and I immediately get sort of like a water weight gain. And then it takes about 2 days and it slowly kind of goes away. And then I feel like I was right before Christmas. So I am tomorrow expecting that I'll feel pretty good. But yeah, I will. There is no chance for me to go back to the old way. If there was, I would have had perfect compliance through the entire holiday.
But we totally understand. Totally understand that.
I get this.
Holy cow.
I've done that New York trip, but not to New York. That used to be going to my parents' house on the holidays.
Yeah, totally understand that. And we're totally pulling for you as well.
And what feels worse for these things is when you've had the thing you had to have. Maybe it was the pizza or the bagel or whatever. And then that sort of opens the window to, well, I've already blown it. And then you look back and you're like, and I also ate like 5 or 6 things that weren't even that good. They didn't even taste that good. And yet I was putting them in. And that's one of those patterns that I had for, well, ever, my entire life, where I would wake up after the holidays going, I didn't even enjoy half of the things that I ate.
Why did I eat those Oreos?
It wasn't worth it. I feel terrible.
Yeah. And I've had that. I've talked about that since I've gone carnivore. That first year, especially, I have a regular weekly date with my friend, a lunch date, brunch or lunch date. And when I was early on in my carnivore journey, that was my day that if I wanted the hot chocolate or something, I was going to have it. So I would, we'd have the salad and then I would be like, you know what, I'm going to have that hot chocolate. But in that year, that first year of carnivore, I learned that most of the stuff was not worth it. That hot chocolate this one sticks out in my mind specifically, obviously. It was not that good. And the M&Ms, I had those one, and it wasn't every week I was doing this, but every now and again, I had M&Ms. They were not that good. Now, New York pizza, New York bagels, those might be really good.
I'm sure they're excellent.
Oh my goodness.
But it has a consequence.
Right. Sure. But so it became data for me with a lot of that stuff where it was like, oh, this is not tempting anymore. Like, I don't think I've had an M&M since then. There's no risk of me having M&Ms.
For me, fall was always the pumpkin spice at Starbucks. I would have them put it into a chocolate drink because that was even like doubly good. And I didn't have it this year, not even once.
No, you didn't.
Because the previous year I had it and I was like, this tastes like plastic.
Chemical.
It really, my taste buds were so adapted to carnivore that when I tasted what I thought was delicious, it tasted like it wasn't even made out of an edible product. It was like some sort of space age polymer with pumpkin dust on it. So yeah, I think that these are all very familiar patterns. Mm-hmm. But JH, I think you're set up great to be successful in 2025.
Yeah.
You know what to do. And the longer you go, the better you feel and the more resilient the way of eating becomes, because you just know, you get the skill to know exactly how much you can push it and how much you can't. Well, and
like we've said, this year was a year where I tightened up my holidays a little bit more. So I didn't go off plan on Easter because nothing was going to be worth it. So, again, it's just the deeper you're in, the more data you collect. And
Annette says, killer kippers. Yeah. For those who haven't been with us for a long time, killers was a typo she made when she meant to say kippers one day. And I call them killers to this day in the house.
Yep. They will always be killers to us.
Yep. Carnivore Chance. Hey, Eric, is there a special coffee that you drink or would suggest? Oh. And I've been trying a lot of different ones recently because I was kind of thinking like, for a while, coffee was fine and I wasn't getting any jitters or anything. But then I started to, because I switched brands, because I was drinking a Starbucks branded coffee. And I've been trying Pete's, Lavazza. I actually got, I think it was Life Boost coffee. Somebody recommended on one of our chats. I ordered some of that to try it out. And it was all good. But I haven't really settled on anything but I don't feel as jittery with my coffee having gotten rid of the Starbucks branded. And I don't know if it's just something with the processing, and maybe there was some chemical in it or something like that, but it was just a data point. Annette is saying Dean's Beans coffee. That's not one I've heard of. I will check it out.
Yeah. You're still on the lookout for what you're going to settle into right now.
Yeah. We were watching Emily in Paris yesterday, and their account was Lavazza, which is Italian. And I had some out of a machine when when we were coming home from our cruise.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good, especially for just coming out of some random machine. And so I thought I'd give it a try. So, but I don't know. It's probably just made in a giant coffee factory someplace. Coffee factory. I'm sure I have to process it somehow. So yeah, that's it. So today is did I say the 27th?
yes.
We have one more video that's happening this year, and it is scheduled for the 31st.
Yes. And you and I will have to discuss that.
It'll have to be later or early.
Yes.
One of those two things.
Don't know which yet, but
so we may do a
yeah.
year in the review. We have done a year of videos. We may look back at some of our early ones just for giggles, and maybe look at some of the ones that did the best to kind of talk about what those subject matter were. And we will be asking you to talk about, like, what do you want to hear from us? Do you want us to do interviews, or do you want us to talk about us continuously? I'm a little bit bored with it. But we're interested in figuring out what our plan for 2025 is on this channel.
Yeah, our plan for 2024 was to complete a year of twice a week videos, and I think we pretty much hit that.
Yeah, we did.
So yeah.
Annette says, having lived near Seattle, I can tell you Starbucks is crap.
Yeah.
Well, their brewed coffee in their stores was terrible until they got their pike roast, because it was just burned. It was just the worst. It was like, take an ashtray and get some hot water in it and then just drink that. That's what their coffee tasted like. So I'll have to look into Dean's Beans. I had in Oregon once, I had Dutch Brothers coffee through one of their little drive-thrus. Oh, it was so good. I don't know if you can get their beans or not. I don't like Dunkin'. All right, we're going to sign off.
All right.
We actually haven't eaten dinner yet, and it's 5:00, which means it's actually going to be supper.
Yeah, no dunch for you.
Yeah, that's bad. I might not sleep that well tonight.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate you. Have a great rest of your holiday December season, and we'll see you on the 31st.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.